Boruto episode 27, A Shinobi Bout of Friendship. Of course, before I get into this episode, we have a new opening as well as a new ending for this one. And both I thought were fairly interesting. The visuals are definitely my favorite part about both the new opening as well as the new ending. The new opening definitely caught me off guard because we've had like what three or four different endings. Technically speaking, we've had like just the two songs, but we had the original ending, then we had the special ending when they finished like the first story arc with Sumini, and then right after that they went into Satoru's arc, so she had her thing, and then the fourth ending was the second version of Satoru's arc, which was really the most plain ending that we've had so far, which was just her walking until she held hands with her parents. But the opening and ending to this, I think, looked really great as far as the visuals. The way they did it, where they go past the characters and they would like pick a specific color for each character and then like show their names for a second. I thought that was pretty cool. The song itself, I don't particularly like. I think it's kind of like right in the middle, like the original song. I think I might like the original song a little bit more. I don't know if that's because I actually like the song more, or if it's just because it's been 26 weeks worth of the original opening song, so I'm just that used to it. But didn't think the song was that epic, but I definitely love the visuals for the opening. Love the part where they have, I think what they did here was they actually blended the characters of Naruto and Boruto, because they have the scene with Boruto watching his dad walk away, and Naruto basically changes, like his outfit changes into Boruto's outfit, but I'm pretty sure it was still supposed to be Naruto's like body, because it was like the hair didn't change to what Boruto had like in the very first episode during like the glimpse of the future. So I thought that was interesting. It was also somewhat confusing because it made me realize how much like if Boruto kept his outfit and then he grew up, he would almost look like his dad from Naruto the Last, because Naruto had the red and black costume, and I was like, that's actually funny how similar their outfits look. Like if they merge them together, it just looks like a slightly different version of Naruto's actual outfit from that movie. So I thought that was kind of funny when I saw it. But like I said, the visuals I thought were great. The song, didn't really care for that much, and really the same thing with the ending. I actually, I was more affected by the ending song changing, because I actually really liked the second song that we had, like starting with Satoru's arc and going up to this point. I actually really enjoy that song. That's it's the type of song where it's like I looked that up and I've downloaded that song at this point, because I was like, I think that's a really good song. So switching to a new one, I was like, and plus the song just didn't seem super catchy to me. But once again, thought the visuals were absolutely phenomenal. It was really simple. I think it was even simpler than what they did with the opening, but the way they did it, like just panning across basically these kids, they're like just training or whatever in the forest, and it just pans across like the entire class, and I thought that was really cool. That seemed to be like the big focus, is that they're like, it wasn't just like the main characters, like the opening focus is like, here's Boruto, Satoru, Chocho, Shigeta, and all the kids, and then the ending is like, here's everyone from their class. And I was very surprised by that, because I'm like, dude, who cares? I mean, I know these kids do show up quite a few times, because I noticed like the goth girl, I'll notice her in the background. The kid that has the mask like Kakashi, I definitely notice him. And then the girl that has like, it looks like she has like bear paws like going down her forearms, like her hands are wrapped up for some weird reason. Maybe they're disfigured, I don't know. They're probably just, it's a weird design choice. But they like really show them off during the ending, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I was kind of surprised. It was like they go down like the entire class, and it starts with like, the irrelevant characters, where it's just like, oh yeah, I've noticed that character a few times in the background or whatever. And then it starts to go towards the, the actual important characters that, legitimately have names. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I was like, alright, visually I like that, even though they're like super relevant characters. They'll just be in the background a bunch, and maybe at some point they will get official names. They probably already have official names, but as far as the show is concerned, not really. The only people that have names are like the two girls that are with Sumiri, and even they get tags in the beginning of the episode now with the opening. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, even though we hardly ever see them, and Sumiri's arc is over, and they're just kind of in the background now, even the three of them, Sumiri obviously, it makes sense that she would have a tag, but the other girls, like her teammates, or eventual teammates, of course, even they get little like name tags in the opening, which I thought was interesting. But visuals were great. Songs were alright, but that's pretty much the opening. The one big thing with the new opening, though, as well, is that Kagura is actually in it, which really surprised me. I first off, I thought this was going to be the last episode of the arc, so I was wrong about that. So maybe the next episode is with the main guy coming in now, who also has the official shark thing, like Kisame, so maybe we'll get an answer. I just doubt it. But with Kagura being in the opening, I was like, okay, well, what does that mean for his character? Because you don't put a character who's not going to show up in the series later in the brand new opening. Like, you know, this is episode 3 of like this little arc, and then the new opening kicks in and it's like, boom, here's Kagura in the opening kind of sparring with Boruto. So I have to assume that he's going to be in the series. I don't know if they're going to do it where it's like, in order to kind of make relationships a bit better, Kagura is going to end up leaving with everybody, and they end up, you know, he ends up living in the Hidden Leaf Village for a minute, and then once they get to, of course, like the Boruto movie stuff, it's like, alright, well, I'm going to head back to my village because that's the easy way to, you know, get rid of him for that story. But I'm just super curious, and I was like, alright, well, you put him in the opening, so that's a pretty big deal, especially considering what we learned about him in this episode. That's the type of character you don't just kill off or anything like that, so it's not like he's going to be in the opening and it's going to be a dramatic death. There's going to be some relevance to that character, and I just found that very interesting. I was like, oh, I thought this was just like a cool little arc. They're in a new village. You know, we find out that there's still a little bit of tension with the Hidden Mist Village and, you know, the rest of the Shinobi world. And that was kind of it. Just a couple cool episodes, and then they go back home, and it's like, nope, he's officially in the opening now. So that has some sort of relevance. I don't know exactly what that means, but you don't put a character in the opening and then, you know, you finish the arc 3 episodes later and we never see them again. So there's some relevance there. So I'm very curious what that means for us. But going into the official episode, it was fairly decent. It wasn't as epic as I thought it was going to be because, like I said, I thought this was going to be like the fight, you know, the big fight ending, you know, end of the arc episode. And I thought like the main villain would eventually come in during the fight and all that stuff. But ultimately, it was really a talky episode. Like, they fight in the beginning, they go get Denki, they just beat everybody up. Like, I guess technically they were beginning, but they all sucked. Like, they were all older than the kids and they just got their butts whooped. So that, you know, they beat them up and everything. But we do officially get the little history lesson on Kagura. And it turns out that he is Yagura, Yagura's grandson. And I guess if I knew that guy's name, because like the past 2 episodes, I just been like, I wish I could remember that guy's name. All I knew him as was the Jinchuriki, but the third Mizukage. That, you know, he's his grandson, which explains why he looks like him, because I mentioned as soon as they showed up in the Hidden Mist Village, I was like, this guy looks exactly like the Jinchuriki dude, and I was like, that could be a fluke, but I doubt it, you know, and it turns out that it was totally on purpose. He even has like the same, like a scar on the same side. It's a mark instead of an actual scar, but I just thought that was very interesting. So it's like, it turns out he is actually his grandson, which is why he looks so much like him. And I guess we find out that this guy had, like this is something that they're kind of making it up as they go, I guess. But there's never really a big story about Yagura and him being, I mean, I guess there wasn't, maybe I just don't remember. It's Naruto, there's a lot to forget. So maybe there was something in there that I just forgot about with him being like bloodthirsty and stuff like that. But I remember him being like super calm as like a Jinchuriki and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe I just forgot, because I do remember there was an episode a super long time ago that I think was actually even a filler, and it had some little story element to do with Yagura. So there was something in there that they probably mentioned before. But with his blood running through Kagura's veins, and apparently this dude had kids, I always thought that guy was really young, so I was very surprised when they said that. I was like, I always thought he was like in his 20s or something. I thought it was like kind of a Gaara situation, where it was like they were super, super young, and I just never would have thought he had kids because he was that young, and he died super young as well, because when he's resurrected during the war, he's still like, he looks like a young dude, like in his early to mid 20s, which you can of course have kids, but I never would have thought that. I just assumed he was like the young dude. Just like the girl who, I think her name is Fu, she seemed like, you know, she wouldn't possibly be old enough to have kids either, but apparently he had kids, and eventually those kids had kids. So Kagura is Yagura's grandson, and when he gets into fights, he loses his mind, and he ended up killing a couple of his former classmates, and that's pretty much it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, where he used to just be a legitimately crappy person. It's always just been this constant struggle of the voices in his head that say, just let loose, like go crazy and add to the actual Blood Mist village. So I thought that was pretty cool, and, you know, we get that quick explanation. It was him, you know, snapping. It's what we'd seen before, so we get that little bit of explanation. You know, they beat up everybody, save Denki. They go and basically they're playing Shinobi Bout, but it's pretty much Uno. Um, and you know, they have a little conversation, and Boruto is like, hey, you know, the guys basically talk to him, and it's like, hey, you kind of shed the notion of you're this person's grandson, you're your own person now. And I thought that was cool. Of course, they tie that to Boruto, and it's like, hey, I'm my own person, you're your own person, and my daddy, your granddad, have nothing to do with us as people. We just have to go out and kind of do our own thing. So they talk a bit, they bond, and they have, you know, a friend moment, and it's like, hey, here's my deck of cards and all that. So it was, you know, the second half was definitely really talky and stuff, and then they go to Anko, Shino, and the former Mizukage, Mei, and they talk about how things are still pretty crappy, and they're going through this conversation and stuff. And that was pretty much it. I assume that that'll have some value to, you know, possibly having Kagura go to the Hidden Leaf Village, because they're like, it seems like things aren't really working in this conversation, and no one from the Hidden Mist really wants to ally, you know, with the Hidden Leaf Village, or any of the other villages for that matter. So the way they were talking about this conversation is like, we want it to work. Like, the three of us in this room really want it to work, but the village doesn't. And that's really where the big problem is. And, you know, me and Chojo are going to do everything that we can to make it work, but it's not exactly going to be that easy because of where the village truly comes from. So I feel like that could easily lend to Kagura being like, all right, well, I have officially decided to go into training to become one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. He kind of has like a renewed confidence in himself. And so I feel like he's going to go through that training, and they're going to, of course, defeat the villain in the next episode. And then he's going to be like, I am going to be, you know, the ambassador of the Hidden Mist Village, and I'll go to the Hidden Leaf as a way to, you know, like I said, kind of bolster the relationship between these two villages, and then eventually the Hidden Mist Village with the rest of the Shinobi world. But that's just my theory on how that might end up playing out. With him being in the opening, that's mostly where all that, you know, all that theorizing comes from. But you know, it's pretty much a talky episode. First half was a bit of action, but it was mostly, it wasn't even really exposition, because the exposition was like, oh, he is this person's grandson. And then after that, it wasn't technically exposition where it's like, this, and this is happening or has happened. It was just them talking about the character. So, you know, still really talky though. It wasn't exactly exposition, but it was just a lot of talking. It was like, all right, well, that's pretty much it. And then we go into the next episode. The main villain killed off the dude from this episode. He may have killed off both the guys, but he definitely killed off the dude who apparently was the most powerful out of like that little group, which was still fairly weak. So he kills him off because he fell for the second time, and then he decided, and I forgot what his name. They mentioned his name in the promo for next week's episode, but I forgot what it was. But of course, he's going to be the main villain, and it seems like whatever ends up happening, I guess, you know, kind of like going with the opening. Boruto is training with Kagura, and that's pretty much how that plays out. Like, they're training together at the academy, and then this dude comes along, and that's, seems like it's, I would assume it's going to be a fairly big part of the episode. And they're fighting for a minute. There's a part where Kagura is basically like, you know, he's on his hands and knees, and Boruto basically has to defend himself against this dude. And it seems like he's using some lightning techniques, and I was like, okay, that's very interesting, because he has wind style. So does he have both? Like, does he have wind style and lightning style? Because that seemed to come out of nowhere, unless they just say like, yeah, this is new technology or something. But I was like, how can he do both? But I guess some people can. Yeah, I mean, obviously Kakashi can, but that's for a totally different reason. But most people can't have that. It's super rare. They even explain that in the original, or I guess in Shippuden. It's super rare to actually have more than one. I think you're supposed to have one, but technically some people are able to have two. But I thought wind was like his only thing. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know, but it was like, okay, they showed it a couple of times, and he had the little shuriken, and there was like lightning forming around him, and I was like, well, where did that just come from? Because I don't remember that being a thing. So I am curious if we'll get an actual explanation for that, or if it's just going to pop up like, yep, he can do that too. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But I am excited for the next episode. Like I said, I enjoyed this one just enough. It wasn't super entertaining. And probably going into it, like I said, I thought it was, of course, going to be the ending of the arc, so I was definitely expecting more from it. But it was mostly just like, hey, here's this little moment. We have the cool action sequence. We have our little bit of exposition. And then the character building moment for Kagura. Like, hey, you have friends. You don't have to worry about your past or your lineage. Just be yourself and, you know, gain the confidence that you truly deserve and overcome, like, the darkness inside you and, be potentially the next Mizukage and be the new Swordsman of the Mist and that stuff. So it was really just a character moment for him. It was like a character episode really for him, and accompanied with a new opening. I assume this is just the start of what we're going to be getting, from this character, because, like I said, you don't put a character in the opening and they have zero relevance. At least that's what I really hope, because that would just be so dumb to be like, we put him in the opening and then, in 2 weeks we never see this dude again. So I hope that's not the case, because that would just be so stupid. But ultimately we have to wait and see. But I would, of course, love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I actually want to know what you guys are looking forward to in this next episode. If you guys have any theories for what's going to happen, especially now that we have this new opening and Kagura seems to have truly leapt in importance as far as the series, with him no longer just being contained to this arc. At least that's what I hope, like I said, with the opening. With him being in there, I have to assume he's going to exist beyond this arc and possibly return to the Hidden Leaf Village. Could be super wrong, but that him being in the opening shows something important. So either he's going to be in the Hidden Leaf Village for a minute, or they're really going to be cutting back to the Hidden Mist Village once the kids leave. There has to be some reason that he's in the opening. Otherwise, that was just a really dumb choice, because you could have put anything for those couple of seconds that he was in there. So they put him in the opening. It has to be relevant in some fashion. So I would love to know your theories on what's going to happen with Kagura's character now that we know, or I'm assuming at least, that he's going to be much more relevant than just this small little arc. So I would love to know your theories on where we're headed with his character and what we should expect to see from him. And of course, want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.